Welcome back to the Donovan and Jorgensen Heating and Cooling Friday Night Rivals pregame show. We're getting you ready for kickoff as Lakeside Lutheran travels to take on the Lightning from Lake Country Lutheran. Let's now break down the Warriors from Lakeside Lutheran. They're 0-1 this year. Last week, they lost to crosstown rival Lake Mills. The Warriors are in their first year in the Badger Small Conference. Last year, they took third in the Capital Conference and lost to Catholic Memorial in Level 3 of the playoffs. So new conference and a new head coach, but not new to the program. We are now joined by first-year head coach at Lakeside Lutheran High School. He is Matt Doering. Hey, Coach, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's a great day. I love being where I'm at.
Coach, so tough first week for you. And before we get into what we learned and what you guys and your staff learned from week one, it is a long way, those 6 inches on the bench, right? From an assistant coach to a head coach. We had this conversation. Very excited to be the head coach at Lakeside. But those 6 inches, it might as well be about 9 miles, right?
Yeah, it's just a lot more decisions to make. And a lot of times I've been in the program for 20 years. D coordinator, worked with Paul closely. He asked me a lot of things, but there's just a lot of things that now are up to you. And you got to make a lot of decisions, which it's what it is, but it is definitely an adjustment.
Hey, Coach, speaking of last week, being part of that program for 20 years, you know what the week is like when you play Lake Mills, right? You guys are across the street from each other, basically.
Yep.
And the rivalry, the whole town comes out. It's whenever it is, baseball, football, basketball, volleyball, it doesn't matter. But to start your career, your first game against Lake Mills, and for it to come down to the wire like it did, did you sleep Friday night or?
Well, once I got to sleep, I slept okay because I was just exhausted. But it's always a tight game, and they run a great program, and it's been a competitive rivalry for a number of years now. And you're right, everyone shows up. It's a great atmosphere. We're used to having it about week 6 or 7 or 8.
Right.
This is week 1. It was a little different. On the flip side, the two programs know each other well, and I think that's part of why it was as close as it was, is that no matter what, it's always close, and we know each other well. So even though it's week 1 and you may not know exactly the personnel changes, you still know what they're about and what we're about. And that's really where we came into the week, focusing on ourselves. What did we need to do?
Hey, Coach, as a guy who's been in the program for as long as you have, and now the head coach, did you come in making a lot of changes, or do you come in going, okay, we've had a lot of success with what Paul ran and how he ran it and how we practiced? Do you keep a lot of things the same, or do you come in and kind of put your own touches on it?
The vast majority of things are pretty much the same. Paul established a great culture, a great program. A lot of the changes that Paul made in the last few years, myself and the other coaches that are around had input on it. So, no, we aren't making a lot of huge changes. Our coaches know what they're doing, and they do it within those systems well. In my opinion, it would have been a little bit of a difficult jump, a harder jump, to try and make a bunch of changes.
You know what? I think that's a right move for you, because you're right. He built a really good program. And when you're around it and in the coaching office, agreeing or disagreeing with some of the changes, but you understand why he's made them or why he does things the way that he does. And if he's had success, it's easier for your players then to kind of have that template and understand what they're getting into. Speaking of players, Coach, I want to talk about 3 of the seniors that are really doing a great job, I think, leading this program. And when we talked a couple of weeks ago, you talked about how much these guys put in the offseason and understood that they're the leaders on this team. And we're going to start with that quarterback. Ben Crockless is a kid that makes some big plays for you, and he's a kid that you're real comfortable with having that, being in charge of that huddle.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a move to be a full-time quarterback for him.
Right.
He was kind of a different type of player for us last year, using him in different roles. But he does bring an athleticism and an understanding of quarterback. He was the JV quarterback for a couple of years with that group, so he's not totally inexperienced in the offense. Does he have some adjustments to make to be the guy every play? Yeah. But he does have that athleticism and that I guess I'll just say speed. He's a 100-meter top of the line guy in last spring's track meet at the state. And so we really look for him to use his athleticism and his speed. And now we got to find out maybe what little things that he does that we need to really make the focal point.
100%. Case Guzman is a kid that I remember from the basketball floor, I think. All around, a multi-sport athlete, tough kid. He certainly does a lot for your football program.
Yeah, Casey at the end of the year last year was starting both ways until he had a little bit of a knee sprain real late in one of our playoff games. So he is our leading rusher returning, if you will, out of the backfield. And he's picked right up there first week. He was right there at about 100 yards, being the guy again. And defensively, he's a competitor, and he's an athlete, and he understands now the system that we're trying to put in place. And so he's been a great asset on both sides of the ball. And yeah, when you bring a guy who competed at a D2 state championship type level for basketball last year, that's always a great experience.
Hey, Thomas Dwyer, when we talk about the big boys right up front, the guys that are going to move you a little bit, he's a kid who does not mind contact and does a nice job of protecting your quarterbacks, making holes for Casey. And he's the kind of kid that I would love to start an offensive line with. He's a tough Irish kid right there.
Yeah. Tommy's a great kid. He's, moving on to his third year of experience on the varsity, and we're really hoping he'll take a jump. He did a bunch of, college camps and stuff this summer, which certainly helped him. Once he's locked in, he's a physical force. He can move guys, and on the defensive side, he gets really hard to move. So we're looking for him to play a big role in that, which our line is huge, bringing back some experience, but he's the guy. And as he goes, we're going to go.
Yeah, we talked with the head coach at Lakeside Lutheran. One of the first things he said was, these guys are huge. They look great coming off the bus. So it's going to be a really fun game for us. Coach, two really good programs, have had a lot of success. Know that very quickly, you guys are now in a different conference, the Badger Small Conference. New head coach, new conference, a lot of new things going on up at school. Excited to be in that conference, Coach?
Yeah, it is what it is. Your conferences are what they are. You play who's on the schedule. We've always been believers in that. You literally take it 1 week at a time. I know it's cliche, but you're really just trying to get to 1-0. And that's another reason, not in my opinion, to make a lot of changes this year. There's 100%. Enough other things. So,
Coach, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Looking forward to meeting you in person in a few minutes on the sidelines. We're going to get to a break. Other side of the break room, be joined by this week's Kern Electric behind-the-scenes superhero of the week. This is the Donovan and Jorgensen Heating and Cooling Friday Night Rivals pregame show only on My 24.